A very warm greetings everyone. Welcome to the special series of symbolic expression. In this, me and my co-presenter Manisha Sharma would be presenting on the introduction to environmental economics, the lecture series. This is the lecture series on economics and environment. We'll be presenting the part 7, the lecture number 7. Learning objective of this particular lecture is to understand the concept of sustainability, comprehend various versions of definition of sustainability, to overview the individual utility function, to derive the social welfare function, and finally to know about various types of social welfare functions. Now, what is sustainability? It is broadly defined as the recent manifestation of Aldo Leopold is considered as land ethics. In 1949, Leopold argued that it is the health of the ecosystem that is of paramount importance. An environmental policy is right if it preserves the integrity of the ecosystem, and it will be wrong if it does not. This philosophy is perfectly consistent with natural resources use, provided the use does not degrade the ecosystem. So the critical point is ecosystem. Maintenance, preserving of the ecosystem is the main idea behind it. Thus, fishing is acceptable, but overfishing is not acceptable. Similarly, logging is acceptable provided long-term health of the forest systems or ecosystem is not jeopardized. However, in today's context, sustainability refers to using the environment for human purpose or human needs only, to the extent that in the long term, health of the environment is not jeopardized. In the present world, sustainability is a very popular concept which has emerged. In this context, various economists have given their own viewpoints related to sustainability, and they have contributed to the discourse of sustainability. That what do you actually mean by sustainable? Economist Robert Solow embraced the notion of sustainability in the context of economic growth and environment. Ecologists such as Robert Constanza and other environmental activists, they have also embraced the concept of sustainability. Another definition of sustainability was generated by Berlin Commission, the World Commission on Environment and Development, headed by the former Prime Minister of Norway. Toman defined sustainability as development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So the trade-off is very important. The point that are we asking the future generation to compromise on their wants, this is what the ethical value judgment is. The debate over sustainability has focused on two main key aspects. First, the degree to which natural capital can be viably replaced by the human capital. And second, the obligation the present generation owes to the future generation. These 2 points are the main key points for sustainability. Nobel laureate Robert Solow, he defined sustainability as ensuring that the next generation is well off as the current generation and ensuring that it continues for all time periods. The main central point of this view is that man-made capital such as machines, buildings, knowledge, etc. are substitutes for the natural capital, particularly the natural resources. As we deplete the world's energy resources, we invent ways of getting along with the energy demands and build up machinery and reduce the energy use through energy efficiency devices, conservation, extract energy from sun using renewable energy, etc. There are various ways of doing that. The classic study by Burnett and Morse demonstrated that except timber, resources are getting more and more plentiful, and that is because that oil has been produced by the nature, but because the technology of extracting oil and using it has been advancing more rapidly and than depleting. So according to this was all back in 1980s when they predicted that since oil is going to be sustainable, production of oil is more as compared to the use, and therefore oil is in plenty in 1980s. The energy conservation and renewable energy sources have as their goals, like the substitution of man-made capital in the form of solar energy converts the natural energy resources into, and displaces oil, gas and coal. In the early 1980s, Simon challenged Ehrlich to name several commodities that are going to that would be more scarce a decade based on the basically based on prices. So it was a challenge given by Simon that what would be the commodities that were going to be scarce. However, later on they witnessed that all the commodities were cheaper as far as the prices are concerned than they had been a decade earlier. So Solow views that man-made capital and natural capital are perfect substitutes. Natural capital is defined as the natural resources, oceans, wilderness areas, species of plants, animals, etc., and are only substitutable by the man-made capital. No amount of machinery or invention will make up for the loss of wilderness areas of the key species present in the planet. The critical difference between the views of Solow and others is that the extent of substitutability between natural resources and man-made capital in the future. Since we refer to the future, the extent of substitutability is just an opinion and not the fact, because we are referring to the future. So we do not know what's going to happen. To distinguish between these two viewpoints, that what is actually the opinion and what actually happens, views of substitutability, there are two concepts that emerged in terms of that. Weak sustainability and strong sustainability. They were coined by Neumayer in 2003. The term weak sustainability refers to the path of consumption over time that yields non-declining utility levels, assuming substitutability between man-made capital and natural capital. The term strong sustainability means that same thing without allowing the substitution between the man-made capital and natural capital. The only difference between the weak sustainability and strong sustainability is the substitutability of man-made capital and natural capital. Weak sustainability allows the substitutability between man-made and natural capital, while strong sustainability does not allow the substitutability, man-made and natural capital. An action that depletes natural capital but enhances the man-made capital may be a weak sustainability but not strong sustainability. A consumption path that is strongly sustainable would necessarily also be weakly sustainable. Another economist known as Talbot Page of Brown University defines sustainability as managing the depletion, pollution and congestion. It was a very important point pointed out by him, and he said that actually sustainability or sustainable development is not possible. It's basically managing the sustainability. For depletion, he calls for keeping the broad aggregates of resources constant from one generation to the next generation. For example, metals, wood, soil, etc., water, you just need to keep them, the quantity, intact for the future. These aggregates of natural resources should be kept intact. He suggested that there is a need to balance pollution generation with the waste assimilation capacity of the environment. For congestion, he primarily means that overpopulation, but the concept goes on further beyond that. The term resilience was also emerged, and it will be used in the conjunction with the sustainability, and they are related but in different terms. Resilience slightly different from sustainability. Resilience refers to the ability of the consumption path or policy to withstand unexpected shocks or events. This is a very common term being used these days, climate disaster resilience. So resilience is basically combating the ability to face the unexpected shocks or the events. For instance, an environmental policy that repairs an energy input may work very well with oil that is prices being around say $100 a barrel. However, if the price of that oil rises to $200 a barrel, then the policy may fall apart. That is not resilience. So all the external shocks like price inflation or anything happens externally or disaster happens, your policy is intact and giving you the same result. A more resilient policy relying on non-oil energy might be a bit more expensive, but $100 oil, but it would continue to give the same result or work if the prices of oil increases from $100 to $200 or more than that. Reclaim tradable permit. This is a reclaim market for the permits in Los Angeles, and it also fell apart when the price of electricity price or shooted up during 2000. California electricity crisis occurred in 2000, driving the price of pollution permits, and it was politically unacceptable levels. So the price of permit of pollution, they got highly affected by the electricity prices. So this is not the case of resilient policy making. Since our goal is to generate, now we must come to the contact of how to generate the policy or choices, social choices. Social choices, they are actually linked to the individual valuation or values. You generate social choices using the individual preferences. Since our goal is to generate the methods of making decision about the specific regulation or project that have the environmental impact, we move away from the generalized way of making policy and we construct a different method based on the values that individuals place on environmental degradation or protection. These individuals may be biocentric. We have done in the earlier lecture the meanings of biocentrism and anthropocentrism. So, and biocentrist would be a person who's selfish and who's materialistic. We make no restriction on their individual preferences. The individual utility functions will be used to derive the social welfare function. So, individual utility functions, as we have seen in the earlier lecture, we assume that the society consists of n individuals, each of whom is consuming a market good and an environmental good, namely an environmental quality. Market good is a composite good. Similarly, environmental good is also a composite good. It is a combination of basket of many commodities in the market good, and Xi represents the ith consumption of that consumption basket of market, while E is considered as constant composite good for the environmental quality. Different people may consume different amount of composite good, such as market good. Environmental quality is also composite, but the amount is fixed at E. In contrast, market goods everyone must consume the same quantity of environmental quality, that is E. Environmental quality is a pure public good. This reflects that we all consume the same amount of environmental quality irrespective of our preferences. We all face the same global climate. This is one of the example of environmental good, E. The benefit derived by the individual from both the market good and environmental good is represented by the utility function Ui, which is a function of Xi and E. Let A be some society consumption bundle, which is a combination of Xi and E, and let N represent the value of consumption of the whole of the market good. N individuals are there, plus the level of environmental quality is also there. It is the same amount E. As you can see on the graph, that it represents the trade-off between the environmental quality and X, and the graph is going down. It is convex to the origin. In the last lecture, we have discussed the shape of this particular function, which is a utility function, and the marginal rate of substitution being the slope and how it behaves. As we move on from one graph, one curve to the next curve, that U1 to U2, U3, U4, we are moving climbing up the ladder of utility levels. Individuals have preferences. They are represented by the utility functions we saw. Individuals would like to maximize their utility by trading off X and E. Now, pure biocentrists are those individuals who have the utility functions that do not permit the substitution of X for E. Similarly, extreme anthropocentrists are also those that do not allow the substitution of X and E. Higher the utility curves, higher are the levels of utility satisfaction, while considering the trade-off between X and private good, that is market good, which is X, and environmental good, that is E. In the above set of utility function you saw, the environmental good becomes more and more important as consumption of X increases. For the low levels of X, environmental quality must increase sustainably to offset the loss of the material good. For higher levels of X, a sustainable and substantial increase in the material good is necessary to offset the small loss of environmental quality. Now, utility for the future generation makes an explicit argument for sustainability. In most of the environmental protection cases, future generation benefits from the action taken today. For example, carbon dioxide reduction, which will affect the global warming, would affect the people of the who would be living in 2100, and the concerns for those people are taken right now in the present world. One, we could also be concerned about the well-being of the future generation, that is considered as bequests, and the people who are concerned for others in general, then that is a case of altruism. So two type of notions and philosophical notions are there, bequest and altruism. In concern, if they are concerned about others generally, we may be more concerned about passing on the environmental legacy in the form of high environmental quality, E, than the material good, X. It is perfectly acceptable for the individuals to view the environment, and it is important to develop the method of analysis that deal with various preferences and ways of evaluating utility derived from the environmental good and material consumption. With this, we will move on to, after seeing the utility functions, we will now move on to what is called as social welfare function after a short break. Thank you so much.